Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. And today we have 4 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story: Hobgoblin steals stand items and his parents don't see why it's bad. Gets told off by GM. The second story: my crappy supervisor was fired. No one was upset. The third story: a server deals with a nightmare assistant manager who takes away her shifts after a difficult 14-top table with separate checks, but the server lands a new job. The fourth story: I left an SHM's company without paying back my bonus and was working another job before I quit. The first story is, it cost $1.25, not free for taking. I'm sure everyone who's gone to the movie has seen flavored salts for popcorn. At the theater I worked at, we have them laying on a small rack on the registers, and I was told we used to have the price label on it, but people or kids would rip them off, so management stopped replacing them. So people now believe it's free for taking, and in this story I had to get more serious to get them to listen to me. It had been a decent morning and my shift was about to end in about an hour or so I've been working concession stand for about 6 months, and I knew how to handle things, especially when it came to customers who take a long time debating on what to order, and I'm a pretty patient person. But even so, some people still manage to irk me, and it's usually those who just grab the salt off the rack and try to sprinkle it onto their popcorn, only to give me the surprised Pikachu face when I say, "Oh, that'll be $1.25 for the salt." Luckily, it's still sealed, but it doesn't stop them from still wanting to open it. Customer: what this little thing is $1.25. I thought it was free because it's just sitting here. Me: no, it's $1.25. Managers just place it here so it's easier to manage. Customer: can't be $1.25. I came here all the time and it's always free. Me: I was told by the GM herself that it's been $1.25 since the building opened, so you want to buy it or not? They usually give me a disgusted look before throwing it back on the counter and walking away. I just pick it up, make sure it's not cracked or broken before placing it back on its rack. A few minutes later, it's near the end of my shift and I'm finishing up my last customer's order. As soon as my replacement signs into their register, I log out and lead out, only to hear little giggling from my salt rack and see a small hand grabbing the cheddar cheese salt off the rack. Me: hey, that's not free to take, kid. He realized he's been caught, but instead of putting it back, he immediately bolts away, but not before grabbing a handful of candy off the rack. I call after him, but the little goblin just kept running, and I sprint out after him, yelling that he has to pay for that. Luckily, he didn't make it too far before I caught up to him. His parents were waiting for him at their auditorium door and questioned why I was following their child. I explained that he took some items from the stand and he either puts them back or pay for them. At first, I thought the parents were going to have him return them. Instead, the entitled dad, I'll call Chad, says, "Well, I don't see the problem with him taking it. It is free, isn't it?" Me: no, the cheddar cheese salt is $1.25, and the candies is $1.50 per pack. Entitled mom, aka Karen: our son would never steal things. I'm sure you just mistaken him for someone else. Me: I watched him take it from the rack and run away. Why else would I be calling out to him? Hobgoblin: but I just want some candy. Me: you still have to pay for it. It's considered stealing if you just run off with it. Chad: well, he wants it and we're missing our movie. We'll pay for it afterwards before we head out. Me: the preview's just started. One of you can still go and pay for it. Karen: or you can just leave us alone or we're going to report you for harassing us and our child. Me: or I can have security come and escort you to the front where you can pay for the salt and candies, your choice. The Chad looked peeved, and I'm not an intimidating person. I'm very much the opposite, a soft-spoken person and very, very shy as well as short. But I've dealt with getting picked on, bullied, and pushed around by others that I wasn't going to let them get away with it. Chad: I'm gonna have you fired for harassment because this is unacceptable. You're claiming my boy stole from you when he clearly didn't. At this point, I was getting peeved, and when I spotted security, I waved him over to get him to deal with the entitled parents, who tried to let their hobgoblin sneak away, until I pointed out he was the cause of this argument, which his parents again denied, and when they became too loud, security was forced to have them move away from the auditoriums, since I'm sure the other moviegoers were able to hear Chad. The manager, the GM River herself, was called and I told them my side of the story, while the entitled parents still claimed that their hobgoblins still didn't steal anything until River suggested checking the cameras to verify what actually happened. Chad started making excuses about how they were missing their movie, before claiming their hobgoblin should get to keep the salt and candies as compensation for them missing their movie, admitting that their little hobgoblin did in fact steal them. River, not giving in to them, told them, either one of you can pay for them or we get you a refund and you can leave. Chad, this is other bullcrap. Why do we have to pay for it when it's sitting right there? It should be free for just sitting there in the open. Forget it, this place is terrible. We're leaving and never coming back again. Security, you still have to hand over that wasn't paid for. Chad takes everything back from his hobgoblin and throws them onto the ground before dragging his screaming goblin away, followed by his just as entitled and annoyed wife Karen, who was glaring daggers at us remarking, "Ugh, I was right about this place being racist towards white people. Always picking on us and just stealing our jobs. You just lost yourself some customers. Oh, and by the way, AMC is better." River, yeah, so what, go there then. Karen and Chad gives us a final glare, maybe even flipping the bird at us, but I was busy cleaning up the spilled salt to notice. Never saw, then again afterwards, but I honestly didn't care because I've dealt with worse hobgoblins and entitled parents. The second story is that coworker. Is it glitter bomb time? Or rather, those coworkers. I have two that are just totally unpleasant. One is in the accounting department. It's a given that accounting people are a special breed, but she's just the worst. If anyone makes any kind of mistake, they're sent a long, detailed email about what they did wrong. I believe that training is important, but to jump on every little mistake is just nuts. I'm NA, so I fix some mistakes before they get to her, but I look for a pattern before I point out any mistakes. Our hotel is busy, so if one night someone who in the past has printed out all their direct bills misses a couple, I chalk it up to brain fade and print them. I see myself as the safety net, but if I notice one person never prints their direct bills or doesn't close their accounts, then I get involved. Usually I'll just send a quick, "Hey, don't forget." 2. Email. But this woman jumps on everything and has to explain in detail how to do whatever the person forgot to do this one time. She has become the office joke. The second woman is just a straight-up B on a power trip. She was hired as a supervisor. Not a manager, but a supervisor. During her first week, she started changing everything at the front desk. She reorganized the back office, so now we can't find anything. She started rewriting the checklist to add more items that are just busy work. The woman loves forms and binders. We try to keep as much information as possible on the shared drive to cut down on clutter, save paper, and to keep information secure and easy to find. Nope, we've got a binder for that. The FD manager wasn't fighting it at first, but I think even she has reached the end of her rope. She's also taken over the supervisor's office. I had a photo of my dog and boyfriend on the corkboard, and it went missing during one of her cleaning binges. I asked her about it and she said she had no idea what happened, but oddly all of her stuff is on the desk and board. I'm never in the office except to store my bag and count out at the end of my shift, but the other supervisors are peeved. The most maddening thing for me is the way she talks down to everyone. I've been around the hotel for a while, and as NA I'm equal to and perhaps a little bit above a supervisor. I've also managed a department in high-end retail, but she talks to me like I'm an idiot. I never use this word, but frankly she's a C. They both have giant sticks up their A's, so that I've considered sending them a glitter bomb. I'm sure I would get fired if they found out it was for me. So have you ever considered glitter bombing a coworker that you hate, or doing something worse? Update. The supervisor, Clipboard B, was sacked. She had a second job at a different hotel, which is a conflict of interest that she didn't disclose, but she was leaving early on the PM shift so that she could go to the other hotel early in the morning. She left the GSAs unsupervised until the NA arrived, which is a problem. But she was also not clocking out on those nights, and then submitted a missed punch slip, so she was fired for the theft of time. Nobody is sad. The next story is Nightmare Assistant Manager. I work in a small family-owned restaurant with a remarkably low A-hole ratio, but the assistant manager is the T in the Rose Garden. She took a 14 top reservation where she told them it would be fine for them to have 14 separate checks. So the day of, I'm the only server on our patio where they're seated. It's 14 old men, all dressed identically, who arrive at intervals from 30 minutes early to 45 minutes late, and trade seats with each new arrival so they can catch up on old times. I try my best to track them by position point, but when they all have black hats with the same logo and red shirts, it's nearly impossible. In the meantime, I have 6 other tables to take care of on the patio plus a wait list. When they're ready to go, I have to scrounge around for 14 check presenters. We're always short of them, and there are 6 other servers plus 2 bartenders who need them too. Then print out 14 checks, then distribute them to the 14 old man clone. Upon which pandemonium erupts. I had iced tea, not lemonade. This isn't my check. Miss, you charged me for a cup of chowder, but I had a bowl, etc., etc. 10 of them pay with cash, 9 of whom expect change, plus 4 credit cards. I got a complaint from one of my other patio tables about the poor service, as I was too busy dealing with trying to make change for all these old farts to even refill a single drink or check on anyone. Because of the complaint, That bee of an assistant manager took away my next 2 dinner shifts. Tips on those nights would add up to around $400, so I can relax and think about how to be a better server. Of course, she made this call while the nice, reasonable general manager was off for 2 days, so I had no recourse. I got docked $400 with no verbal or written warning because of my conduct and unacceptable service levels. The next morning, by a wild coincidence, I was offered a job in my career field with a start date of 7 days hence. Of course, I accepted to make sure my karma was good. I offered to stay on at the restaurant through Father's Day and July 4th, with the provision I would not be able to work lunch shifts Monday through Friday. That stupid bee put out my schedule with me working 11 a.m. on my first day at my new job. She wants to fire me for not being available, and I'm laughing. I spoke to the GM and said, you know, if she fires me for that and my other job fell through, I'd be eligible for unemployment, right? He was so contrite and asked me so kindly to please stay for Father's Day and the 4th, both of which they depended on me to work. Should I? Edit. I had a heart-to-heart with the nice GM and told him I wasn't sure I could be civil with the assistant manager. He presented me with a nice bottle of wine, said they could manage without me, and offered a good reference. He and I are still friends, and whenever I stop in to eat there, the AM pretends she doesn't recognize me, ha ha ha. And the last story is how I left my previous employer. So I'm an EMT. I'm constantly moving from one company to the next looking for greener grass. My previous company was one of the largest EMS companies in the USA, and there was a sign-on bonus of $5,000 for a 1-year contract, and if I broke this contract, I would be obligated to pay it back or they could sue me. Generally, they would take your last paycheck as payback. I was promised as much overtime as possible, and I was also promised 24-hour shifts. I worked there from about January of 2022 till about December of 2022. Not only did they lie about the unlimited overtime, they also started to cut my shifts to the point where I wasn't even making 40 hours a week. While this company paid the most per hour compared to any other company in my city, US EMS personnel generally can't live without the overtime pay. So come December, I had had enough with this company and decided to move to a different company, who basically promised the same thing, but I had talked to employees to verify if it were true or not. So it's the second week of December when I had told the new company I would agree to an 18-hour versus the 17 they were offering they approved, and I had my orientation. Mind you, I had yet to quit my previous company, so I called in sick the entire week of my orientation and field training shifts knowing I was going to receive a paycheck that Thursday from them. Thursday rolls around and I was scheduled to have a shift at the previous company on Friday. See, the money hit my account and call my supervisor and say, I quit effective immediately. I will not be showing up to my shift tomorrow, and hang up. The way the paychecks between the companies fell, I also got paid the next week for 1 week of work at my new company, so I got paid 2 weeks in a row. Fast forward a month and the previous company sent my bonus to collections and I get a call from the creditor. I had only received 3 installments of my bonus by the time I quit, and they were charging me the full $5,000. So I dispute the charge and tell them to not call again or I'll consider it harassment. To this day, my credit has not been hurt, and they have not gotten a single cent from me. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.